pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll open up with public comment. Any public comment? Tim?
Mr. Chairman, Tim Ravendall, taxpayer, not on the reporter side here. Just a quick question. The Solid Waste Department presented a plan modified last Monday, and then at the board meeting this last week, a different plan was submitted. I did talk to Mary on the phone about what the new plan is, if it's in writing, and she informed me that she was going on vacation, but that was going to be available. Asked to have a copy of that and never did get one. So I was wondering if you folks have a copy of that revised plan 4B, CD, VR 549, whatever level it is, so that we can, citizens know what's going on.
No, I don't, we haven't got the revised plan. She's not on vacation, she's at a training.
Oh, I see.
I believe, were they gonna have a meeting on the 8th?
The 4th is when she told me that she was
Okay,
going
the
to be at
4th, I
meeting.
think that they were gonna have another meeting and finalize that new draft.
Okay.
Mostly what it was involved with was not closing Rayersburg.
That's what we heard, but I didn't know if that was official or not. That's why I was hoping to maybe get a copy of that, so I would know. People are calling wanting to know.
We haven't seen
And
it
friends.
yet.
So again, I'm not asking on behalf of the paper, I'm asking on behalf of
Okay.
myself, because I got a lot of people and friends that are wanting to know what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so it's not available until the 4th, is that what I understand?
I would assume that they were gonna have another meeting on it, I believe, and finalize what she came up with on the 4th.
So the draft is not available then,
No.
until then? All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about the solid waste and the increase. On my taxes, that is a line item.
Yeah.
So, by approving that, did you open up every line item to conjecture and maybe increases or whatever? So if I'm the sheriff's department, can I come and say, I'd like my line increased? Did you open up a can of worms and set a precedent?
No, we
That's
just
my
opened
question.
up the assessment. The solid waste is an enterprise fund. So
It's
it
what?
funds it, the solid waste is an enterprise fund, so it funds itself. So when you open up that assessment, you're only opening up that assessment.
Okay.
That's a charge for a fee, it's not a tax.
Okay.
Yes.
Cheryl Campbell, at the mention of Deep Creek, I haven't heard any update on Deep Creek. Is that a done project? It's done now, or what's the status of it?
As far as I know, everything's done, yes.
Just so you guys know, we had a deputy struck a deer Friday night in his patrol car, and it's not operable, so it's up at Collision Pro. Insurance has been contacted, and we're just waiting to hear back on what's gonna take place with that, so.
All right, deputy's okay though, huh?
Yeah, deputy's fine,
Okay.
car is not, or
Okay.
the deer.
And deer are expensive, aren't they?
Yeah, they cost about $8,000 to $13,000. So,
Not the fishing game.
Do you have any idea how long that's gonna be out?
It usually is, a couple months. If they're gonna fix it, this is one of the cars with the highest miles, so I'm a little concerned on what's gonna take place with it. Whether that damage is gonna be over what the vehicle's worth or not, so that's what we'll wait back and hear from the insurance here, so.
I'm just going.
Any other public comment? We have minutes here of March 21st, 2019.
Can I look at those, Mike? I gotta make sure something like that I read. Alright, so I guess the only thing that I wanna comment on that, the GT Ranch. I mean, so I got a couple calls over the weekend on that. And talked to some landowners and sportsmen, both about that. And, I mean, I guess where I'm at is, I'm willing to support, you know, the fishing game going forward to explore what's gonna happen there. But we need to know what their full proposal is and what public comment will be for them. I mean, I'm gonna give my full support to that.
Well, you're still trying to acquire that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Would it be like a block management area then? Is that what it is? Or
You know, no, I guess we don't really know, 'cause we don't know what the full proposal is, but I'm assuming it's gonna be a game management area similar to what's over here in the Elkhorns. And, you know, so all the questions are about, you know, how much public access will be and, you know, those issues. So,
it'd be nice if it was public because there's a ton of problems right there.
there is,
You
yep.
know, and that's, you got all those guys that, we had a long history of that road incidents out there between landowners and sportsmen, so.
Right.
You know, if they can open it up for public access, that's gonna save a ton of headache for a lot of folks. And if it's walk-in only, then, you know, that, you're still gonna have people driving down the road because they don't wanna get out of their car. But at least people have access to get there, and there's a lot of elk and a lot of game in that area. So there's some good things that can happen there. It's just,
right. So, I mean, I think we just need to wait for that process to take place. See what all the public comment is, see what their full proposal is, and then,
didn't Fish and Game have a hearing on that a while ago?
I don't know.
I thought they did, but, out there, I thought they had one out there at the Canyon Ferry office, but maybe I'm wrong. but-
But I guess I just want that known, that's where my support is. It's not for them to purchase it, it's to explore it and do the public comment and see what the proposal is. With
Sounds
that?
good,
Huh? Any,
sounds good.
okay, I guess with that, then I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second, approve the minutes as presented, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Tim, did you have?
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Wolford. The fishing game is moving forward with starting the proposal. Do we have any dates on anything at all at this stage?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
We heard that they were interested in moving forward to open that back up for discussion, so.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
See, we have claims in the amount of $76,657.57.
I'll move that we approve the claims as submitted.
I'll second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded to approve claims in said amount, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Have payroll claims in the amount of $166,901.67.
Move to approve payroll in the amount of $166,901.67.
I'll second the motion.
Motion been made, second to pay claims the said amount, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same, motion carries. Let's see, I have some mail here, ID Bill magazine for IDs. Letter from DEQ for the Silos Recreation Area seasonal startup procedure reminder. The Blackfoot bundle bill, a total of $3,664 for the internet services and phone lines for the courthouse. We just have to have that put into a claim, right?
Right, and the question was, do we want, that spread out with the same formula that, Michelle currently uses? So every department pays a percentage based on whatever her formula is. It's, number of people in the department, usage, that kind of thing. So I think the answer is yes. Are you guys good with that? Okay,
Yeah, I'm good, just continuing the process we're using right now.
yeah.
Okay. When there was a question on the Three Forks interlocal agreement about not having internet into that building, or you're just gonna use your computers in your cars,
Yep.
that's what Gallup does, so we don't need to address that?
No,
Okay.
so they'll just use their MDT, because that's got a Verizon card in it, so
Okay.
they'll just do it that way. And reality is when they're down there, they shouldn't be playing on the internet, and they should be
Okay.
getting other stuff done, so.
So I guess we will go to the adjourn the commissioners meeting and recess the commissioners meeting and open the public hearing to adopt a resolution defining board members' roles and responsibilities. A resolution defining the roles and responsibilities of Broadwater County boards and board members for airport, fair, board of investments, local advisory council, mosquito, museum, recreation, search and rescue, solid waste, trust board, TV and weed boards as advisory boards to the Broadwater County Board of County Commissioners. Whereas pursuant to section 71201 MCA and 71202 MCA, county commissioners may establish administrative boards, and whereas the Broadwater County Board of County Commissioners reaffirms previously established Airport Board, Fair Board, Board of Investments, Local Advisory Council, Mosquito District Board, Museum Board, Recreation Board, Search and Rescue, Solid Waste Board, Trust Board, TV District Board, and Weed Board as advisory boards to the Commissioner, and whereas the Commissioner recognizes the Broadwater County Trust Board has a stronger role within its advisory capacity, the Trust Board has a budget and all contracts are pre-approved by the Commission. An approved standard for soliciting and approving grant requests complies with the Trust Board's charter requirements, and such grants shall be approved by a public vote of the Trust Board prior to a final decision by the Commissioners. And whereas board shall coordinate and communicate with departmental personnel and other partners, develop plans and criteria, hold scheduled meetings, implement standards, and perform other such duties as are approved through individual boards, bylaws, and by the Broadwater County Board of County Commissioners. And whereas boards shall review commission-approved bylaws annually which set the number of members, board expectation, meeting schedules, special qualifications for members, and other opportunities and parameters. And whereas boards shall have an annual meeting for new member orientation and election of officers including chair, vice chair, and secretary as needed. And therefore be it resolved, the Broadwater County Board of County Commissioners does hereby reaffirm the Broadwater County Airport Board, Fair Board, Mosquito District Board, Museum Board, TV District Board, Weed Board, Recreation Board, Trust Board, Search and Rescue, Solid Waste Board, Board of Investment, Local Advisory Council as advisory boards to the Commission. Any public comment?
Yeah, you don't have a search and rescue board. They're attached to me. That's a subsidiary of the sheriff. When those guys are activated, they are deputized to act on behalf of the sheriff. You guys don't have the authority for search and rescue.
Okay.
Nor does this give us that authority over them, but don't they have a president and a
They do.
vice president that they?
Under the
board
organizational
meetings?
status, yes, but they don't have an advisory board. They don't get to do anything without the sheriff's permission. So they can't even act on their own without the permission of the sheriff.
Right, and that's what
So-
this is affirming, is that it's an advisory board, so they can't do anything without your authority. That's what this resolution says.
But you're creating a board that's responsible to come and talk to you.
No,
That's-
well, you know what, we
that's-
can
that's what that
include,
says.
it doesn't, but we can include a sentence if you would like. We could do one of two things. We could take out search and rescue and you can create
I
what
would
we
prefer
don't
that.
have. Okay,
Yeah.
well, what we need from you is a resolution, and because what we don't have are, from years ago when they were first created, any of the resolutions establishing these boards, and that's what this is all about. So if you could bring that to us, that would be great, we can take it out of this
Well,
one.
the problem is it's an inter-organizational board. It's in order to run a meeting, and they still keep their minutes and everything else. It's not, they have
Right.
no powers as a board.
Right.
So unlike the
None of
fair
them
board
do.
or anybody else, they don't have any authority unless I give it to them.
Exactly.
That's the difference, is that you look at fair board says, we're gonna come in and meet with you. There's nobody on that board that's gonna come in and meet with you about search and rescue. That's just not gonna happen.
Where this came from was a request of a couple of members of the public, and there was some confusion on whether the search and rescue board could move forward with the construction of that building that they've been working on, regardless of the fact that the commission had set parameters, that they have to have a contractor, they have to have a contract, insurance, that kind of thing. Volunteer, work comp. So, it's up to you guys, I'm fine either way. What we can do is one of a few things. One, we could include search and rescue in a sentence that says, and just like trust board, and search and rescue, answers to the sheriff. And then, of course, the MCA for that. Or, we can have a separate resolution, because there isn't a resolution establishing that board, and that's what this is all about. And that's what we got from our board's training. So we could just have the sheriff put together a resolution that sets it off as separate. Whatever you guys want to do, we could just ignore it. I think that's the wrong way to go. Because I think what we're trying to do is put things in order that just were missed years ago. I don't know when search and rescue was created, do you?
Oh, gosh.
Decades ago.
Yeah, long time ago. It used to be, there used to be a sheriff's posse, is what they used to be back in, I think, the early, well, the 50s, 60s, and then they moved into a search and rescue component. A lot of them did, I think in the late 70s, early 80s.
What
Yeah.
this comes from, though, is our training that we had in January, and there is a law that says you have to have a resolution establishing any of your boards. So that's what this is answering, is that MCA. Maybe it wasn't around back then,
Probably not.
maybe it just got missed, I don't know. What would you like to do when?
Well, and, I mean, be easier, I mean, I can change it, I'll be honest with you, it's easier just to change it into having having a chairman, I guess. I don't even know having a chairman, but the fact is that,
Do you want us to just take it out of this, I
I
guess is my
do,
question.
I do. Because
I'm
it's-
good
it's-
with that if you guys are.
It muckies the
Okay.
water a little bit, and the problem is trying to keep, one of the issues we had 10 years ago with the search and rescues, they tried to become more self-sustaining in the aspect that they started to make decisions on their own, which then led to a couple people going to prison for embezzlement and some theft of county property and stuff of that nature. So there was no oversight, and I guess that's where I do not, I'm not comfortable allowing volunteers to just take control of a ton of property that belongs to the taxpayers without oversight of the sheriff. And that's where, I guess that's where I'm having a little bit of debacle there, is that.
Well, this would put the oversight there, that's what it's for, so that's why I say it, if you wanna do your own to make sure that there's oversight, and it's
That's probably-
documented, that's
probably-
fine.
yeah.
That's why this came about.
Because most
is
of your
to
boards
ensure-
don't have access. I mean, if you look at the fair board and everybody else, they don't have access to your gas cards, they don't have access to, you know, $100,000 pieces of equipment. And so they're more of an advisory board, saying this is what we want to see happen, blah, 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 and they make recommendations. These guys are still boots on the ground doing a job. And that's where we got in that pickle with the embezzlement stuff, is that they started doing things that were completely illegal and found themselves in a bed and breakfast, so. Because they had access to things that normal boards don't have, so.
Any other public comment? Cheryl?
Maybe I've missed it over the years, but I don't ever remember hearing about a local advisory board. It's like, who's on that, when do they meet, what do they do? It's, I don't know anything about it.
Is that the mental health one? Yeah, that one's been around for, oh my God. It deals with mental health. And so there's Mike Stevens, Teresa Munson, Teddy, the addiction counselor that lives next door here, myself, Melinda Holm, Mary Ellen Schnur.
Okay, now,
So,
I just didn't realize it was
yep, this is called an
local
LAC.
advisory board.
Yep,
Okay.
and so, and one of the commissioners sometimes attends, and then I can, there's quite a few people that sit at the table now, so, but that's that.
Thank you.
Yep.
This is,
Tim?
Mr. Chairman, Tim with Broadwater Reporter. One of the questions I guess we have on the resolution process is a lot of folks are wanting to know why there's no, I'm going to try to get the right words here, consistency, if you will, on letting the people know when these meetings are, when they're being held, and in advance, because, for example, last week, you know, the website didn't list even who the members are of the solid waste board, and some of the information that is really being sought by the people on how they can get involved ahead of the decision-making process. So I didn't, you know, I'm just wondering if I'm out of line asking it at this time, I apologize, but it's just because we are talking about these boards and a resolution going to be adopted, it would be good if we can make sure that we have a process that's consistent across the board with the advisory boards. Use the board twice there, apologies. I hope you understand the question there and the urge to try and make sure that we can continue working towards transparency so that the people know what's going on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I have a comment on that, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So I know last week we worked on that exact issue. And so what's going to be happening is Nicole is working on a calendar. There will be a link on the website that people will be able to click on the calendar, and they'll see the date when all the boards are meeting. And hopefully, if it's set up right, they'll be able to click on that, and it should take them to wherever their meeting minutes are and agendas. That's the hope. So it'll take a little bit of time, but we're aware of that and we're working towards that.
Thank you, Mr. Wolford. And again, the reason the question is asked is, you know, even Bobby called me this morning and asked me if I've been receiving phone calls on where some of this information is at, because people that are depending on not only what's in the paper but online are having a difficulty finding the information in advance. So we're trying to work together so that we can make sure that that's taken care of. Thank you.
Well, one thing that I will say is I know that we're making progress, because last week I looked on all our bulletin boards and there were lots of agendas on there from some different boards. So everybody's getting there, and that's the whole process that we're working on now with this resolution and the training we did with our boards. We're trying to get everybody back to center and do a better job of that. So
Thank you, Commissioner.
just take a little bit of time to get that done, but thank you.
Any other public comment? So we will close the public hearing and reopen the commissioners' meeting with the decision to adopt a resolution defining board members' roles and responsibilities. Is there a motion to approve the resolution with the search and rescue board removed from the resolution?
I think, Mr. Chairman, that we should have a motion and a second to remove search and rescue separate of adopting a resolution. So if I may, I move that we remove search and rescue at the request of the sheriff from this particular resolution.
Is there a second to said motion?
I will second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded to remove search and rescue from the resolution establishing boards for Broadwater County. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
And I do think we need to solidify in the minutes that there will be a resolution coming for search and rescue separate from the sheriff. So that's established as a county board per MCA. And I would move to adopt the resolution with the change that we just adopted.
I will second that motion. Also, I'd like to say that, you know, it's important, I know it's just another document that the county's made, but it's important, because this does give guidance to our boards that they've never had in the past, how their expectation, how they're expected to operate, so I will second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the resolution as with changes as suggested. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
If I can, just out of curiosity, is there like an orientation for new board members that, in order why I ask, as a state, you know, I sit on the board of private security for the state, and they just did it's called like a clear training or something like that, but it basically, you know, it went through where you had to, it took a bit, but it went through and explained what the expectations of the governor, what he expects from you when you sit on these boards. I think Moore's probably done the same thing. I think it's clear, isn't it? Is it clear training? I think, but I didn't know if that's something you guys were looking at going towards. With this is some sort of, these are the expectations that we want you to do, and excused absence once in a while is one thing, but not on a regular basis, and blah, 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 blah. I was just curious.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, nothing nearly as complicated as what you and I have been through with that. What we had were, years ago, most of these were created many years ago. And some of them had resolutions creating them, some didn't. And by law, we have to have resolutions creating all of them. So this encompasses that for all of them. And then the second thing is several boards had in their resolutions, again from decades ago, you guys have governing authority over your departments. Well, that's opposite MCA. MCA doesn't allow that. So that's what this is doing, is establishing that those are no longer governing boards if they were, or if there was an understanding that they were, they're now advisory. But they don't need our permission to the degree that you and I do from the governor. It's just homework, housekeeping.
Let's see, our next one is, see Carla Anderson, 10:30 is canceled, so. I guess we can go to Commissioners' Community Update. Let's see, I attended road negotiations, Rocky Mountain Development Council, strategic planning, weed board, and solid waste. Rocky Mountain Development Council's looking at probably, you know, they're looking at some serious budget issues. So they're trying to figure out, you know, what the status of all their programs are and what, when they need to make cuts, trying to figure out where and how they're gonna make cuts. And how else they're gonna try to fund programs. Main programs that they talked about was Meals on Wheels is a pretty extensive program for them. And senior citizens, meals over here, affordable housing, and also the Head Start program. And with the restrictions on budgets that are coming and have already come through, there's gonna be some cuts in those programs, but we're still trying to figure out where that's gonna be at and how we're gonna maintain our budget to stay with all those functions. That's pretty much all I have.
And Rocky Mountain Development Council. That's an incredibly important service they offer, and not a real positive report, but I appreciate that you're working on it. I attended Solid Waste and Weed with you guys, and then also Montana Board of Crime Control was last week. I have a crime data report that I wanted to share with you guys. We also had Youth Justice Council, and Carl Roston came and gave a suicide prevention training, and have a PowerPoint I'm more than happy to share with you guys. Carl Roston, with the Q&A after the presentation, did say that there was a drop in suicides for Montana in 2018. It's only 1 year, so we can't really take from data that there's anything more to it than maybe a fluke, or maybe all the attention to suicides has made a difference. For the past good number of years, Montana's been #1 in the country for suicide. So it was a good report. Have you seen it, Win?
No, I haven't seen this one.
Well worth your time if you get a chance. Board of Crime Control, this is a trend sheet of crime in Montana, and it doesn't show Broadwater County, although online you can get where we sit. But one of the things that I thought was interesting is there was a big jump in 2015, and that's over all the different areas. You guys can keep this, but why? Why was there such a jump in 2015, and then it kind of stabilized for the next couple of years? So both Kathy Wilkins with Board of Crime Control data is going to look into that. I also put the question to our economic development. What happened in 2015? So hopefully between those two, we'll have an answer, and why did it even out after that? So it's interesting information. We used to get a full book, now it's just a couple of sheets, or one sheet, 2 sides. But yeah, interesting stuff.
Is that between Class A and Class B offenses, is that,
Both of them.
so?
It is between them.
Yeah.
They're divided out separately, like in the old report.
Yeah.
But it's both of them that took that jump in 2015. And I don't know what that was. I know economy, your economy goes up, your crime goes down.
Yeah.
Your economy goes down, your crime goes up. I don't recall anything from 15, but that's why I looked at economic development.
The only thing that I can attribute to some of the crime rate going up is the low cost of methamphetamine. And so here in the last couple of years, the price of meth has gone way, way down. So when I worked narcotics back in the early 2000s and up until 2006, if you were gonna buy an ounce of meth, you were looking somewhere around $4,000, or not $4,000, $1,500. An 8,000 meth was right around $350. Now you can get an ounce of meth for $300. And so it's gotten really, really cheap because it is smoking across the border. And on ships, airplanes, a lot of it gets even shipped up to Canada and then brought back down this way. The availability of it is just huge, and I think that's where we're starting to see a lot of people, and even there's a lot of people in our own community here that are struggling with meth addiction. And before, where it was $160 a gram, which is the consistent size of a sugar packet, people couldn't afford it, and so we didn't have the problems. But now that you're paying $40, $45 a gram, people get their hands on it, and it's destroying people left and right. So I think that's just that lower cost, and that meth has really changed. I know a lot of the cases that we have, we had a pursuit a week ago. It resulted in a crash. That gal was high on meth at the time. I mean, we deal with a lot of folks that come in that are under the influence or coming down off of meth. And so it's reared its ugly head in full force, and I see what we're seeing here is an increase in meth-related incidents where the people are under the influence at the time they commit their crime. And so that's the only thing that I could think is that lower cost that has really changed in the last few years.
Here's the thing that's interesting though. If you look at the data, the graph, meth does increase, but it doesn't increase any more in 2015 than any other year. It's a steady incline, all the same,
Yeah.
huge problem. Marijuana use went down in 2015. Again, there isn't a spike of anything else to offset that. Unknown drug type, that actually did spike a tad, and then it goes down. And DUIs went down in 2015. So there isn't anything here that says, hey, this is your answer to 2015. So, yeah, and we all know opioids issue, meth, huge issue. But there's nothing here that says this is your answer.
This is the key
So,
factor, yeah.
Yeah, so my question is huge. What happened in 2015? I don't know.
Where do you think the meth problem's coming from? I'm taking the opiates away from the people that are in pain. They're gonna get out of pain some way or another.
Well, that's why heroin and fentanyl are so bad right now. But, you know, that's one of the things, but I think the legalization of medical marijuana has stemmed some of the opioid issues that we've seen in Montana. Because the fact is that those chronic back pain folks, they can, or even cancer or whatever, they're having that opportunity, ability to find a different remedy. But the meth, it's insane, and it's not a gender specific, it's not an age group specific drug. I mean, we have people that are 14, 15 years old that are addicted to methamphetamine. We got people that are in their 60s that are addicted to methamphetamine. And so there's such a wide group of users there that accessibility is easy, and it's just, it is what it is, so.
And I have one more report, Mr. Chairman. DNRC had an event last week. Here's a spreadsheet of some of the projects that we have. Broadwater County is in there, and also discussed Forest and Focus 2.0. And the idea with DNRC is to get more logs out of the forest and return our forest to a healthy place through logging, which also helps our white timber, which we talked about last week. So that's, give that to you, Janaea, and you guys can look at that at any time. We'll be in our office. So lots of good information from last week.
All right, good. Well, I also attended the weed and solid waste board meetings. We had this health department roundtable, which was on Salmonella outbreak, and happy to report that nobody got sick from the lunch that was served, so it was all good. Attended the road department negotiations, and also myself, our county engineer, TJ and Mary, we all toured the Crow Creek Valley project, the flood mitigation project, and it was a really worthwhile tour to go out there. There were some things that our engineer didn't realize, so there's some more culverts and some different things that are gonna happen there that make that project a little bit better. And then from there, we went down to Price Road and looked at the work that was done there. The culverts that the county boys added have made a pretty big impact. The road was in much better shape than it was last year. There's still, more water to come out of there, and we'll see how it works, but that looked pretty good. Went through Rolling Glen and out to Wheatland. I looked at all those roads and the things that are happening out there. During that tour, from Price Road around over to Wheatland, I counted 12 new homes being built this winter. That was incredible.
Yeah.
So I would imagine as soon as the weather warms up that that's going to take off pretty quickly. Anyway, so.
In regards to your LAC, I don't know when the last time you guys were at the meeting, I always get everything blends together. But, so Melinda Holm has, and I think she's, I don't know if you guys have been there, she's a licensed peer-to-peer support person. And so we've gone through a bunch of meetings with a gentleman out of, one out of Livingston and a gal out of Missoula. I think she's out of Missoula, maybe out of Butte, can't quite remember. But we're getting that in place. So basically what this is gonna be is when the officers, we had a meeting last week in our office with the patrol division, getting this thing kind of kicked off. And so Melinda is going to, if we have like somebody who's depression or, maybe not necessarily suicidal, but having some sort of crisis, but they're not a harm to themselves or others, so we don't have the authority to deal with them. We can call Melinda and she can come over and she can kind of get the ball rolling in services. And so Melinda's been doing ride-alongs with the patrol guys, and we've got her in our system, so when she does get called somewhere, she can call into the office, say, hey, I'm gonna be over at Billy Joe Jim Bob's house, check on me. So we've done that, and she's got herself a computer and a work phone, and she's got packets and stuff that guys can give out. She's actually gonna have an office at the little house over there by the Alliance Church. They're in the middle of remodeling that right now, but that's where she's gonna kind of be based out of. And I think that as a local mental health resource, I think that's gonna be a great thing. And we've really put a lot of time and effort and energy into this, and she's got a ton of enthusiasm for it, and I think that we've got a good person in a good spot. And so I think that, if you run across somebody who's going, I need somebody to talk to, I'm having some problems, I send them to Melinda. You can call the office and they can give you your number. I don't have it off the top of my head. But I think it's gonna be, and hopefully what we'll do is we'll kind of transition this law enforcement being involved in how these mental health patients are being dealt with and treated. Right now we get called, well, not right now, but before, we would get called to somebody who's in crisis, and chances are we didn't understand them, we didn't understand their condition, we didn't have a whole bunch of things in place. So it would usually end up in a wrestling match with them in handcuffs in the backseat of a patrol car getting transported to St. Pete's, and then an officer would sit there for 8 hours or 12 hours or whatever, and then they either bring them back or they take them to War Springs or a community health program. And so what we're hoping is that being able to establish a relationship between Melinda and whoever this person in crisis is when there's a bunch of documentation stuff that takes place there. So she's gonna upload that stuff, so when we go in and click on, they said, hey, Billy Joe Jim Bob's in crisis, we can look, okay, these are the things we don't do, they don't tell us the do's and don'ts, and these are the people that we need to contact when this person's in crisis. And this is done by that person. And so hopefully it eliminates us putting hands on with people in crisis. It takes us out of the picture of having to get them in a position where we have to take them to St. Pete's. And some of that stuff can be dealt with more at a local level. And hopefully it can also establish a good baseline to where we're not having to transport people to Warm Springs. And I think that's kind of the overall objective, and I think it's new. We don't really know how it's gonna work and look yet, but I think everybody, I know the patrol guys were really not apprehensive, but open to making it work, because that's one of our things we don't like doing. And we do humiliate folks doing those things. Nobody wants to walk through an ER door with an armed, badged officer holding them. And I think that's where we really need to be more cognizant of people and how that's done. So I think this is a good thing that we're on, and hopefully you're gonna get better. So if you guys do find the time to get down to the LAC, I think we're taking some good steps. And it's been a long time since we've taken good steps like that. So I think it's a good program. So I did want to share that with you since you guys brought up the LAC. So
I got one example for that. You had him in jail here, and he just got out of rehab. That boy's as clean as a whistle.
Yep.
And because of Melinda, she went in there and laid it to him.
she did. Yeah, she did.
She did.
She did.
That was her nephew, so
Yeah.
she was allowed to, but
Yeah.
she isn't allowed to work with the relation, but anyway, and now his counselor in Helena, he laid it the same way on the line.
Yeah.
He told him to do exactly what Melinda did, and that boy's doing good.
Yep. And I think and it was nice to have, really it was kind of a door opening for her, because the fact is it was her nephew sitting in jail and making bad decisions and not doing some things. And we all know Melinda, she can be a little blunt at times, and she just laid it out there, and he did. It's a good success story. And the nice thing with that is that not only did he have that startup in the jail, but it followed through when he went to treatment, and then it was in place by the time he walked out the door of his treatment. And so it wasn't like he was taking a new step, it was already there, it was already being taken care of. And I think that's, if you look at Department of Corrections, they're looking at the peer-to-peer. If you look at law enforcement, because I sit on the state committee for behavioral and mental wellness of law enforcement, we're going to the same thing, the peer-to-peer support. I think if you read the article from Colonel Butler in regards to how they're dealing with the Trooper Palmer incident, they're doing a peer-to-peer as well, and he spoke of that. And so I think you're really starting to see that peer-to-peer process across all avenues really take a foothold. And I mean, the best way to get people to understand is to have somebody who's sitting there that's been through it. And so I think we're on the right track, and I would invite you guys to come down and just see the progress of the LAC from the last year and a half. So.
Great. Well, you answered some of my questions, is, you know, how she was gonna be accessed, so she can be accessed directly, and you guys will help facilitate that as well, so that's great.
And I think I think she has an email as well, and so, like, we're trying to get that information out as quick as we can. And, I know Bobby did an article with the paper on it, and we're gonna keep kind of putting that out. You know, because it's, whether it's, I mean, there's all sorts of things in life that affect us, and everybody's got a different trigger point, and I think that's where having somebody work, and Melinda's really trying really hard to recruit a male peer-to-peer. They had one in place and they left, and so she's just trying to find somebody who can fill that spot at a local level. And I think once people kind of get an understanding and understand what's going on, and I think we'll have somebody in there. So, but, you know, Broward County's been without really anything mental health services wise, you know, in that aspect in a long time. They haven't had a walk-in center in over a decade. And I think that's where, you know, some people might feel like they're on the edge and they just need to go and talk to somebody, and that's where that little house should come into play, as they can walk in and just sit down with Belinda or whatever and have a conversation, and maybe that might be all it takes to keep them from going over the edge and having a bad day, bad week, bad month. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens here. So.
Perfect.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to start up.
Okay, let's see.
Yep.
Corey, finalize the triple-wide lease agreement.
So I met with Chuck Pataya last Thursday. He's Buck Campbell's attorney, and they had just returned from taking care of some family things. Their son was killed in an accident, and so he said they had literally just got back into town. So he said he's gonna meet with Doc and then try and get us together in the next few weeks to sit down and just basically reach an agreement on this. I know that, I believe, Daryl, you went over to the building with Mike Myers, is that right?
We went over and
And
kind of did a walkthrough and inspection, and I'll be honest, wasn't what I was expecting.
Okay,
The building's needs a lot more repair than what we were thinking. I think that's gonna play into the discussion that we're gonna have.
okay,
I did try to meet with Doc on several occasions, you know, he was, you know, busy and different things, so we never did get together. I still would like to do that. I did talk with Dwight quite a bit, you know, got his feelings, you know, on that. But, you know, Dwight and Doc still haven't got together
okay.
as far as for what's gonna be best for the two of those. I think that's something that has to happen as well.
Okay.
But
So my plan is to call Chuck and see if we can meet, just the group of us, and we just even go over, sit down for coffee or something, I don't know. I'm gone next Monday to Montana State Hospital. If they let me come back, then I'll be back, well, so I'm traveling, a lot next week, actually, I've got a couple of things that are have agreed to help another county on one of their issues. And so I'm doing some investigation review next Tuesday. So, we have a trial the 4th. So why don't I, do you wanna be the point of contact on that if we have a sit down?
Sure.
Okay. Well, then let me, call him and figure out schedules, and I'll email all of you.
Yep.
And then we'll try and get that done in the next 2 weeks here.
Okay, that'd be great.
I'll also email you an update on the Longhorn driveway. I was able to meet with the property owner out at his property on a weekend. And he is interested in the process of asking for a approach exception onto Antelope Road. I think it would have to go back through, it'd have to really go through the road department as well as through Nicole, because that would affect a restriction on their subdivision. And I'm gonna do a little research on this, but my initial take on it is that it would require the other members of the subdivision to agree to that change. So I need to confirm that that's accurate. And his view is that it's gonna be a lot less damage to the road, a lot happier, his neighbors are gonna be a lot happier if he can continue to come off Antelope than the internal road, because of a tractor trailer setup that he's got. So there's a little process to go through. I talked him through a little bit of that, but I have to talk to Nicole, because I don't know the whole process. So it was good that I was finally to do a face-to-face with him. He was literally coming in, getting dinner, changing clothes, doing laundry, and then going out on another. He's an over-the-road trucker, so he's not home very often. So I was able to talk to him and walk the property and all that. He also said that that driveway existed prior to the subdivision. I'm not sure if that's accurate. I'm gonna have to see if Nicole's got any stuff from the time of the development of the subdivision as far as maybe an aerial view. But I'll send you all an email, but it'll be some information. Mostly I'll just probably meet with Nicole and then figure out what needs to happen. And if the answer is no, then he'll have to comply with what the road and subdivision and access has. So, of course, there was also 2 feet of snow everywhere. So I couldn't find an access point off of Tumbleweed Drive, the internal road, onto his property, but it might have been under 2 feet of snow. So that's that.
Did he say if he ever used access off of Tumbleweed?
He said he never has.
He never has.
I'm curious about what you said about no driveway off of Tumbleweed.
Our records show that there is one. And I asked him about that, and I said, well, where is it at? He says, well, there's supposed to be one over there, but there isn't. And we walked a bit, but it was so drifted over, I couldn't tell where it would be if there was one. That make sense?
Yeah. That's not something that the county would have put in, is the subdivision.
Right.
So I'm just curious where he's coming from with that.
Yeah,
So
I asked him all that, and he said this entry off Antelope, it's right at the corner there when Antelope is coming north-south, and then it turns and goes east-west and connects to the highway. Right at that corner is where his place is. And he says this entry from Antelope onto his property has always been there since he's owned the place and prior to the subdivision. Well, the dates are a little fuzzy, so I said, well, we're gonna have to look into that. Because our understanding of what these restrictions from the subdivision are is that the access for this was, there's an internal road called Tumbleweed Drive, and every lot has connection and access off that road. And that's when he said, well, this is always the way I've come in. A little more digging there. And was it correct that was Jepson that developed that place? sound right?
It sounds right, but I don't know.
Okay.
Do we know, when was that subdivision put in? Is that anybody's guess?
Should have been about 8 years ago. It might have been 9. I think it was like 09, 2010, somewhere in there. Because Jeff Naffith was the first one out there. So,
Public hearing for final plat was 2007, but I'm not sure when it was. It looks like it's saying June 2007, but I don't have the signed final version. The plat itself was filed November '06, so that would make sense for, or I should say the certificate of survey was done November 6th of '06.
Is he the first owner of that property, or?
He
Buy it from
said
somebody else.
he said he's the first owner to buy it from the developer in '08. But I haven't searched all these property records. That was my first time actually being able to talk to the guy.
So he's the original owner then from 2008, he's not a new owner, correct?
That's what he's telling me, yeah.
So I have a question on the triple wide next door. One of the things that has me concerned for the citizens is that we don't have any liability coverage. If something happens, it's 100% on the Broadwater County taxpayers. Can you get some kind of a temporary liability agreement while we're in year 3 of working through this lease agreement? Can we get a temporary liability waiver that protects the taxpayers with this process? You said it'll take at least a couple more weeks. Do you know what I'm asking for? I don't know the term, the legal term. Is this something we can do to
Well-
alleviate my stress and the citizens' liability?
Well, so either way, because it's a county-owned building, it should be covered by the county's insurance policy. And I understand it was last fall, it was added. Is that correct?
For May, it's added this year. But we shouldn't be the first insurer, we
Right.
should be the second. And that's
Right.
where I'm concerned. If something happens there and it's $1 million claim, that hits not only the Maple Pool, the entire state,
Right.
but it hits our insurance, premiums, cost, all of that. And I don't think that that should be bore by the taxpayers.
Right.
So I'm looking for just an assurance while you work through this process. Can we get something like that?
Yeah, I'm calling him to set up the meeting, so I'll bring that up.
Okay. I think that's important.
So I can kind of report on what Mike Meyer and I discovered when we went over to the building. I mean, there's a pretty big list here